The lights of the Conrad Hotel ballroom are a blur, a dizzying spin of crystal and forced smiles. I clutch my champagne flute, the bubbles doing little to calm the tremor in my hand. Across the room, Ethan Miller, my fiancé, is making his way towards the stage, that smirk playing on his lips. I know that smirk. I've seen it before in another life, just moments before he publicly detailed the humiliating terms of our prenuptial agreement, his voice booming through the microphone as his friends roared with laughter. I'd stood there, frozen, a statue of shock and despair. But I'm not that girl anymore. That naive, heartbroken girl died in the twisted metal of her car, fleeing her own engagement party, tears blurring her vision. The universe, in its unfathomable way, hit rewind, gave me a do-over. And I've spent every second of the last 6 months not grieving, but preparing. Weaving a web so intricate, so perfectly designed that Ethan wouldn't see it until it was too late. My diamond engagement ring, the one he'd slid onto my finger with such performative affection, catches the light. It feels cold against my skin. A tool, not a treasure. Ethan reaches for the microphone, his eyes scanning the room, no doubt searching for me, expecting to see adoration. My phone buzzes in my clutch. A text from Gabriel, Ethan's boss. 3 words. It's done. The board voted. He's finished. A slow smile spreads across my face. Let the show begin. 6 months. That's how long I've been living this second chance. 6 months since I woke up gasping, the phantom pain of the crash still echoing in my limbs, the memory of Ethan's betrayal burning in my mind. The first few weeks were a disorienting haze of déjà vu and a chilling awareness of what was to come. But then, clarity. A cold, hard resolve settled in my bones. I wouldn't just avoid the crash this time. I would reroute my entire destiny. My first move was to re-meet Ethan. I knew he'd be at the annual charity gala his investment firm, Miller Capital, sponsored. It was where we'd first met in my previous life. The memory of it, his overconfident swagger, his cheesy pickup line about the color of my dress, it all played out in my mind like a scene from a bad movie I was forced to watch on repeat. This time, though, I was ready. The air in the ballroom was thick with the scent of expensive perfume and ambition. I saw him across the room, a shark in a bespoke suit, and felt a wave of nausea, a sickening sense of inevitability. But then, I remembered the new script. My script. As he approached, that familiar glint in his eye, I didn't feign surprise or shy demureness. I met his gaze, a playful, knowing smile on my lips. "That's a bold dress," he said, his voice smooth, practiced. "It takes a certain kind of woman to pull off that color." The exact same line. "And you think you know what kind of woman that is?" I replied, my voice laced with an intrigue that wasn't there before. He paused, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. I'd piqued his interest. Good. The next few weeks were a carefully orchestrated dance. Coffee dates where the aroma of roasted beans mingled with his expensive, cloying cologne as he leaned in, trying to read me, completely unaware that I was the one reading him, calculating every word, every gesture. I let him believe he was in control, the powerful Ethan Miller, effortlessly charming another pretty face. Little did he know, I was dissecting his every move, his every vulnerability, storing them away like ammunition. Dinner at his penthouse. The first time in this life that I met his inner circle. His sister, Vanessa, with her saccharine smile that did little to hide the viper lurking beneath. I remembered her whispered comment from my past life, calling me a gold digger, her voice dripping with disdain. This time, as I stood in his sleek, minimalist kitchen, the cool marble countertop under my fingertips, I pretended not to know that this was the very spot where I'd later find the damning text chain, the one where they'd all plotted my financial ruin. Vanessa's eyes, sharp and assessing, narrowed when Ethan casually mentioned my family's modest background. "Oh, how quaint," she'd purred, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. I just smiled back, a picture of sweet, unassuming Sophia. Then there was Mia, my supposed best friend. The one who, in my first life, had offered a shoulder to cry on while simultaneously feeding information to Vanessa. Sunday brunch at our favorite cafe, the sunlight streaming through the windows, illuminating the duplicity in her eyes. The mimosa bubbles tickled my nose as she leaned in, her voice a conspiratorial whisper. So tell me everything. Is Ethan as loaded as everyone says? What's he really like? I remembered the sting of her betrayal, the way she'd used my trust against me. This time, I fed her a carefully curated narrative, painting myself as slightly overwhelmed, a little naive, but deeply in love. I watched as she lapped it up, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of envy and feigned concern. She was already planning her next report to Vanessa. I could see it. Good. Let her. She was an unwitting pawn in my game. Meeting Ethan's parents at their sprawling Hamptons estate was another exercise in practiced calm. Eleanor Miller, Ethan's mother, was a woman carved from ice, her gaze as sharp and calculating as a surgeon's scalpel. I felt her eyes on me, dissecting my dress, my manners, my potential as a Miller. The crisp ocean breeze carried her whispered words to Ethan, the same words that had crushed me in my first life. Are you sure about her, Ethan? Her background? It's not quite what we envisioned. This time the words bounced off me, harmless. I simply smiled, the perfect image of a demure, slightly intimidated girlfriend, while inside I was taking notes. It was at that garden party, amidst the clinking glasses and polite chatter, that I first truly noticed Gabriel Russell, Ethan's boss. He was standing apart from the crowd, a quiet, enigmatic presence. His eyes, a startling shade of gray, met mine for a fleeting moment, and I saw not judgment, but a flicker of something else. Curiosity. Understanding? I couldn't be sure, but I filed it away. A potential ally. The engagement. It happened right on schedule. The same Michelin-starred restaurant, the same candlelit table, the same carefully rehearsed speech about our perfect match and our inevitable future. He got down on one knee, presenting the obscenely large diamond ring with a flourish. The weight of it on my finger felt different this time. Not a symbol of love and commitment, but a tool. A prop in my carefully constructed play. The restaurant's dim lighting cast long, dancing shadows across his face as he slid the ring onto my finger. He looked so pleased with himself, so certain. You're quiet, he said, his thumb stroking my hand. Happy tears? Overwhelmed, I managed, summoning a shaky smile. It's all just perfect. He had no idea that I'd already started laying the groundwork for his downfall. No idea that the modest Sophia Chen had been having discreet meetings with his boss, Gabriel Russell, discussing not wedding plans, but investment strategies. Discussing Ethan's increasingly reckless moves in the market. The real surprise wasn't this ring or this proposal. The real surprise was yet to come. The first crack in Ethan's perfectly curated world appeared subtly, a hairline fracture that only I could see. I accidentally stumbled upon the text messages. Just like before. Ethan, Vanessa, and Mia. Their words a venomous cocktail of greed and condescension, outlining the prenup. A prenup designed to leave me with absolutely nothing, ensuring the Miller fortune remained untouched by the gold digger they perceived me to be. I was in Ethan's home office, ostensibly looking for a pen. His laptop was open, his phone lying beside it. A casual glance, a feigned moment of curiosity. The sharp pine scent of the cleaning products the housekeeper used still hung in the air, a scent I now associated with betrayal. My hands trembled as I picked up the phone, but not from hurt. This time, it was anticipation. The blue glow of the screen illuminated my face in the darkened room as I scrolled through their digital conspiracy. Same damning words, same cruel intentions. Make sure it's ironclad, Ethan. We can't have her taking us for a ride. That was Vanessa. She's sweet, but a little simple. She'll sign anything if you flash that smile, E. Mia, my dear friend. Don't worry, she won't know what hit her. She'll be so grateful for the ring, she won't even read the fine print. Ethan, my loving fiancé. I carefully placed the phone back, my expression a mask of innocent discovery when he walked in. Everything okay, Soph? He asked, that easy, confident smile on his face. I let my lower lip tremble. Ethan, what's this about a prenup? Dinner that night was a masterclass in manipulation. I played the part of the devastated yet ultimately understanding fiancé. The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth as I bit the inside of my cheek, forcing tears to well in my eyes. The leather of the restaurant chair creaked beneath me as I shifted, my posture conveying heartbreak. I I understand, I whispered, my voice thick with unshed tears. Your family, your wealth, I get it. Ethan reached across the table and taking my hand. His touch felt like ice. It's just a formality, babe. Standard procedure. It doesn't mean anything about us. Of course, I said, dabbing at my eyes with a napkin. I then launched into a series of carefully calculated, naive questions. Questions that revealed nothing of my growing financial acumen. Questions designed to make him underestimate me even further. So, it just protects what's yours before? I trailed off, looking suitably lost. He explained it condescendingly, patting my hand. Exactly. Don't you worry your pretty little head about it. I gave him a watery smile. He had no idea my pretty little head was about to cost him millions. The next day, I had another meeting with Gabriel Russell. His downtown office was a world away from Ethan's flashy penthouse. It was all understated elegance, rich mahogany, and the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee. Leather-bound portfolios lined the shelves, a testament to years of shrewd decisions and quiet power. Gabriel listened intently as I outlined Ethan's recent, increasingly risky investment patterns. I'd spent weeks studying his trades, his tells, his hubris. There was a flicker of surprise in Gabriel's usually inscrutable gray eyes as I detailed my market insights. You have a keen understanding of these things, Sophia, he said, his voice a low rumble. He offered me a glass of water, the cool condensation a welcome sensation against my suddenly dry lips. I'm a fast learner, I replied, taking a sip, and I've had good reason to pay attention. I then laid out my plan, a strategy to leverage Ethan's overconfidence, his tendency to chase quick wins, his disregard for due diligence. The city lights twinkled like distant stars in the vast window behind him. When I finished, there was a long silence. Gabriel steepled his fingers, his gaze thoughtful. You're suggesting a way to mitigate the damage Ethan is about to cause the firm, he said finally, and perhaps teach him a valuable lesson. Something like that, I agreed. He smiled then, a genuine, almost imperceptible upward curve of his lips. I'm impressed, Sophia, more than impressed. Have you ever considered a career in finance? I might have a position for you on my team. My heart leaped. This was more than I'd hoped for. I'd be honored to consider it, Gabriel. The first domino fell a week later. Ethan had sunk a significant portion of his clients' and his family's money into a volatile tech stock. A stock I knew, through my own research and a discreet tip from a contact Gabriel had provided, was about to tank. I'd subtly reinforced Ethan's interest in it, feeding his confirmation bias, praising his bold move. I was with him in his penthouse when the news broke. His phone started buzzing, then ringing incessantly. His face went from confident to confused, then to sheer panic as he watched millions of dollars evaporate in real time. The shattering sound of his whiskey glass hitting the marble floor echoed the implosion of his world. No, no, this can't be happening, he roared, pacing like a caged animal. Vanessa called, her voice shrill with hysteria. Ethan, what have you done? That was Mom and Dad's retirement fund. I played the part of the supportive fiancé, rubbing his back, offering soothing, empty words. It'll be okay, Ethan. We'll figure this out. All the while, I was discreetly forwarding damning evidence of his negligence, ignored risk reports, bypassed protocols. To the firm's compliance officer, Cece and Gabriel, the confrontation came, as I knew it would, at Vanessa's meticulously planned dinner party. The air was thick with the scent of cinnamon and clove from the mulled wine she was serving, a festive aroma that couldn't mask the underlying tension. Ethan, desperate for a scapegoat, turned on me. This is your fault, he snarled, his face flushed, his voice loud enough for every guest to hear. You've been distracting me. All this wedding planning, this drama. Mia, ever the opportunist, nodded sympathetically, her eyes gleaming with malice. He has been under a lot of pressure, Sophia. I stood there, feigning shock and hurt, allowing their accusations to hang in the air. Then, as if on cue, the doorbell rang. Gabriel Russell walked in, his presence immediately shifting the atmosphere in the room. "Evening, everyone," he said, his voice calm and authoritative. He surveyed the scene, his gaze lingering on Ethan's furious face, then on my tear-streaked one. "Ethan, I heard about the tech stock. Unfortunate. However," he continued, turning to me, "I must say Sophia's financial instincts are surprisingly sharp. She actually raised some concerns about that particular investment with me last week." A stunned silence fell over the room. Champagne glasses froze midway to lips. Mia's smug expression melted into disbelief. Vanessa looked like she'd swallowed a wasp. Gabriel then clapped Ethan on the shoulder. "Perhaps you could learn a thing or two from your fiancée, Ethan. She seems to have a good head for these things." He gave me a subtle wink. "A real asset." Ethan stared at me, his mouth agape, a storm of confusion and dawning suspicion in his eyes. The first loop of my revenge was complete. But this was just the beginning. The fallout from the dinner party was immediate. Mia, true to form, wasted no time in stirring the pot. She cornered me a few days later, her voice laced with false concern, the sharp tang of her perfume. A scent I now associated with betrayal, hanging heavy in the air between us. "Sophia, darling," she began, her hand clutching my arm a little too tightly. "I'm so worried about you. People are talking about you and Gabriel Russell. Ethan is devastated. He thinks there's something inappropriate going on between you two." Her eyes, wide and innocent, searched mine. "He's even talking about calling off the wedding." I let a single tear escape, then another. "Oh, Mia, it's not what it looks like," I sobbed, pulling her into a hug, burying my face in her shoulder so she couldn't see the triumphant glint in my eyes. "Gabriel, he's been mentoring me. It was supposed to be a surprise for Ethan, for our anniversary." "A surprise?" Mia asked, pulling back, her brow furrowed with suspicion. "Yes," I said, my voice choked with emotion. "I'm starting a financial literacy project for underprivileged women. It's something I'm really passionate about. Gabriel has been helping me set it up, guiding me. I wanted to impress Ethan, to show him I could be more than just, you know." I let my voice trail off, implying his family's low opinion of me. Mia's expression shifted. She was clearly intrigued by this new, charitable Sophia. Perhaps she could spin this to her advantage, too. When Ethan confronted me later that evening, his face a mask of thunderous rage, I was ready. I let the tears flow freely, collapsing into his arms, the rough texture of his cashmere sweater, a familiar, yet now repulsive, sensation against my cheek. I sobbed out my carefully rehearsed story, apologizing profusely for keeping secrets, for misunderstanding how it would look. He was confused, his anger momentarily deflated by my apparent heartbreak. A charity? For women? Just then, my phone rang. It was Gabriel, on speaker, as planned. "Sophia, just wanted to check in on the proposal for the foundation. The initial figures look promising. You have a real gift for this, my dear. Ethan should be very proud of your charitable instincts." Gabriel's voice was smooth, authoritative, and utterly convincing. Ethan stared at the phone, then at me, his expression shifting from anger to a grudging respect, mixed with a healthy dose of confusion. You're really doing this?" I nodded, sniffling. "I just wanted to make you proud." He pulled me closer, his anger dissolving into a reluctant tenderness. "Okay, Soph, okay. I'm sorry I doubted you." Score 1 for Sophia. My next target was Eleanor Miller. I arranged a chance encounter at her exclusive women's club. The air in the hushed lounge was thick with the scent of lemon polish and old money. Teacups clinked delicately as women with helmet hair and pearl necklaces exchanged whispered gossip. I approached Eleanor with an expression of grave concern. "Mrs. Miller? Eleanor, might I have a word? It's about Ethan." She eyed me coolly, but there was a flicker of maternal worry in her eyes. "What is it, Sophia?" We sat at a secluded mahogany table. I leaned in, my voice a low, anxious whisper. "I'm worried about Ethan. He's been gambling. A lot. I've seen statements. Hidden them, actually. The debts are mounting." This was, of course, a complete fabrication, but a carefully planted seed of doubt. I'd created mock betting slips, doctored bank statements, enough to plant a seed of serious concern. Eleanor's perfectly manicured hand flew to her chest. Gambling? Ethan? I had no idea. I didn't want to worry you, I said, my eyes downcast. I thought I could handle it, talk to him, but it's getting worse. I thought, perhaps if you spoke to him, we need to keep this quiet, of course. Protect the family name. Eleanor, ever conscious of appearances and the Miller reputation, was horrified. The carefully crafted evidence, combined with Ethan's recent, very real financial losses, painted a damning picture. She promised to handle it. The confrontation took place at the Miller family's annual hunting retreat. I wasn't there, but Vanessa, ever the gossip, gave me a breathless blow-by-blow account. The sharp scent of pine and gunpowder hung in the crisp autumn air as Eleanor, her face a mask of steely resolve, confronted Ethan about his supposed hidden debts. Vanessa, surprisingly, sided with her mother. It turned out, in her own snooping, she'd been tracking Ethan's suspicious withdrawals. Withdrawals that were, in reality, investments I had subtly guided him towards, knowing they were sound, but which, in the context of the gambling accusation, looked like something far more sinister. Ethan, blindsided and furious, denied everything. But the seeds of doubt had been sown. His own family was turning against him. His confusion quickly morphed into a towering rage. The grand finale of this particular loop occurred at the family's prestigious country club. The chlorine smell from the nearby pool mingled with the scent of expensive cologne as Ethan, his voice echoing through the manicured lawns, publicly accused his family of sabotage. "You're trying to ruin me," he bellowed, his face puce. "All of you." Eleanor looked aghast. Vanessa was in tears. Other members of the club watched agog as the Miller family imploded in spectacular fashion. I stood silently by Ethan's side, the picture of a loyal, supportive fiancé trying to calm him down, my gentle touches and whispered words only serving to fuel his paranoia. And then, as if summoned by the drama itself, Gabriel Russell appeared. He'd been having a round of golf, he explained. He stepped into the fray, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to Ethan's histrionics. He offered to mediate, to help the family find a rational solution. His intervention, so perfectly timed, cemented his position as the voice of reason, the savior in the midst of the Miller meltdown. Ethan, now completely desperate, his confidence shattered, his family alienated, turned to the only person he felt still believed in him. Me. We were in his study, the room dark and oppressive, despite the afternoon sun streaming through the windows. The bitter taste of the espresso he'd made me still lingered on my tongue. "Sophia," he said, his voice hoarse, "you're the only one who gets me, the only one I can trust." He paced the room, running a hand through his already disheveled hair. "I have this new venture, a chance to prove them all wrong, to make back everything I lost and more." He laid out his plan. It was reckless, ill-conceived, and doomed to fail. Perfect. "But I need capital, Soph, just a little seed money. My accounts are complicated right now." He looked at me, his eyes pleading. "Your savings. I know it's not much, but it would mean the world to me. It would show me you believe in me." I feigned reluctance, then a dawning hope. "Oh, Ethan. I don't know, it's everything I have. I'll pay you back, Soph. Triple, I promise." I let him persuade me. I agreed, my voice filled with a carefully constructed blend of love and trepidation. He presented the papers, a hastily drawn-up agreement. He barely glanced at them as he pushed them towards me. "Just sign here, babe," he said, his relief palpable. I picked up the pen, my hand steady. The setting sun cast long, ominous shadows across the documents as I signed my name. He hadn't read the fine print. The clauses I'd had my own lawyer, recommended by Gabriel, discreetly insert. Clauses that gave me not just a stake in his new venture, but controlling interest. He leaned down and kissed me, his lips dry and cool. "Thank you, Sophia," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for believing in me when no one else does." I smiled up at him, my heart a cold, hard stone in my chest. "Oh, Ethan, you have no idea. The engagement party, the grand stage for my final act. The planning had been a whirlwind of florists, caterers, and Vanessa's increasingly frantic attempts to assert her dominance. She and Mia, thick as thieves, were clearly plotting something. I'd overheard them whispering in the ladies' room during a venue visit, the chemical smell of hairspray burning my nostrils as I hid in a stall. They were planning a surprise slideshow. Embarrassing photos from my past, no doubt designed to paint me as a gauche, unsophisticated nobody. A final public humiliation. I'd smiled to myself. Amateurs. That evening, while they were out to dinner, I'd let myself into Vanessa's apartment, the spare key Ethan had given me for emergencies proving quite useful, and found the USB drive easily enough. It was labeled Sophia's Surprise. I replaced it with my own version, a much more interesting surprise. The night of the party, I feigned nervousness. I clung to Ethan's arm, my eyes wide and anxious. "Ethan, darling," I whispered, "I'm so worried Vanessa might try something. A speech or those awful photos from my college days." He kissed my forehead, the minty scent of his gum cloying. "Don't worry, sweetheart. I've had a word with her. No surprises. Tonight is all about us." His cologne, that expensive, overbearing scent I'd come to loathe, enveloped me. He was so confident, so blissfully unaware. "Besides," he added with a smug little smile, "I think the family has finally come around. They see how happy you make me." The Conrad Hotel ballroom glittered. Crystal chandeliers cast a dazzling glow on the polished marble floors. Guests in their finest attire mingled, champagne flutes clinking, the air buzzing with polite conversation and underlying currents of social maneuvering. Eleanor Miller, regal and imposing in a sapphire gown, gave my simple but elegant dress a thorough, scrutinizing appraisal. I caught Vanessa's triumphant glance at Mia as the DJ announced that there would be a special slideshow presentation from the bride's dearest friends. The champagne bubbles tickled my nose as I took a calming sip, a small smile playing on my lips. Showtime. The lights dimmed. A hush fell over the crowd. Ethan squeezed my hand, beaming. Vanessa and Mia exchanged a look of smug anticipation. The first image flashed onto the screen. Not a picture of me with bad hair and questionable fashion choices. Instead, a crystal clear photo of Ethan, very much not with me, but with his secretary, in a decidedly compromising position. A collective gasp rippled through the ballroom. The heavy scent of the lilies on the centerpieces suddenly seemed cloying, suffocating. Ethan's face went white. He lunged towards the projector, but it was too late. The next slide? Damning evidence of Vanessa's creative accounting, or, as the authorities would call it, tax evasion. Her perfectly made-up face crumpled in horror, and then Mia. A series of bank statements and forged documents, meticulously detailing her embezzlement from the children's charity she chaired. Her wail of despair was drowned out by the shocked murmurs of the guests. The slideshow continued, a symphony of scandal and ruin. Ethan's reckless trades, his contemptuous dismissal of advice, his blatant disregard for company policy. It was all there, in excruciating detail. His carefully constructed image, his entire world, shattered in a blaze of digital damnation. Then, the final slide. A simple, elegant logo, Woo Investments. The room was plunged into a stunned, almost breathless silence. The only sound was the ornate grandfather clock in the corner, its rhythmic ticking echoing the pounding in Ethan's chest. Gabriel Russell stepped forward, his voice calm and clear in the suddenly silent room. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, "allow me to introduce you to Sophia Chen, not just Ethan Miller's fiancée, but a woman of remarkable talent and foresight." He paused, letting his words sink in. Sophia is, in fact, the anonymous angel investor who, 3 years ago, saved my company, Russell Holdings, from a hostile takeover. An investor I and many in the financial world have known only as Madame Wu's protégé. Another wave of gasps. My modest family background, the one the Millers had so disdained, was real. But the fortune I'd inherited from my grandmother, the legendary Wall Street pioneer Madame Wu, was very, very real. A fortune that dwarfed theirs. I stepped forward, taking the microphone from a stunned Gabriel. The cool metal felt good in my hand. "It seems," I said, my voice clear and steady, "there have been some misconceptions about me." I looked directly at Ethan, at Vanessa, at Mia. Their faces a mixture of disbelief, horror, and dawning desperate realization. I've known about your little schemes for quite some time. The prenup, the attempts to undermine me, the casual cruelty. Eleanor Miller's hand trembled so violently that her diamond bracelet clattered against her champagne glass. Vanessa, her face streaked with ruined mascara, rushed towards me, her expensive perfume suddenly suffocating. Sophia, sister, we had no idea. I stood my ground, the firm carpet beneath my heels a grounding force. Oh, I think you did. Gabriel stepped forward again, a protective arm around my shoulders. And our partnership, he announced, his voice resonating with quiet power, goes beyond just a few wise investments. For the past 6 months, Sophia and I have been strategically acquiring shares in Miller Capital. As of this morning, he glanced at his watch, we together hold a controlling interest. The blood drained from Ethan's face. He looked from me to Gabriel, his eyes wide with a desperate, pleading incomprehension. The board members of Miller Capital, strategically invited to the engagement party, were watching, their faces grim. I gave Ethan a cool, dismissive smile. I believe you have some explaining to do to your board, Ethan. Then I turned, the satisfying click of my heels against the marble, a punctuation mark to my victory, and walked away, Gabriel by my side, leaving Ethan Miller to face the ruins of his empire. The fallout was swift and brutal. Ethan's position at Miller Capital became untenable. With Gabriel and me holding the reins, investors, sensing a shift in power and a return to stability, flocked to our side. The company's stock, which had plummeted under Ethan's reckless leadership, began a steady climb. I watched the ticker on my office screen, a bitter taste of victory like dark chocolate on my tongue. My phone buzzed incessantly with Ethan's desperate, pleading messages. I ignored them all. Vanessa was the first to crack. She appeared at my apartment unannounced, a ghost of her former, glamorous self. The scent of her expensive perfume was now mingled with the unmistakable aroma of desperation and stale tears. Rain lashed against the windows, a fitting soundtrack to her pathetic excuses and justifications. Sophia, please, she sobbed, clutching at my arm. I was wrong. We were all wrong. Ethan, he can be so persuasive. And Mother, she just wants what's best for the family. I said nothing. My silence, I knew, was more devastating than any anger I could have expressed. I simply offered her a tissue, then showed her the door. The click of the lock behind her was a satisfying sound. Mia's attempt at damage control was more public. A tear-streaked video apology posted on social media, claiming she had been manipulated by Ethan and his family, that she'd been blinded by loyalty. The video went viral, but not in the way she'd hoped. The comments section was a bloodbath. Mutual friends, acquaintances, even strangers saw through her crocodile tears, her transparent attempt to salvage her reputation. I watched it in my darkened living room, the bright screen illuminating my impassive face. Then, I closed my laptop, the click of the lid, her official exile from my life. Eleanor and Ethan's father, a man I'd only met a handful of times, a man who usually lurked in the shadows of his wife's formidable presence, were next. They arrived at my new office. Gabriel had insisted I take the corner suite overlooking the city with a settlement offer. They would sign over their remaining shares in Miller Capital, giving me outright control in exchange for my discretion. For my silence. The leather of my chair creaked as I leaned back, savoring the moment. They looked so small, so defeated. The arrogance, the condescension, all gone. Replaced by a desperate, fawning humility. I let them talk, let them plead. Then I picked up their unsigned contract, the thick, expensive paper a symbol of their last, desperate gamble. And I fed it into the shredder. The mechanical whir filled the silence, a symphony of their disintegrating hopes. Discretion, Mr. and Mrs. Miller, I said, my voice devoid of emotion, is no longer on the table. The final confrontation with Ethan was almost anticlimactic. He waited for me outside my apartment building, standing in the pouring rain, looking like a drowned rat, soaked, broken, stripped of his arrogance and his power. The rhythmic drumming of raindrops on the awning above was the only sound for a long moment. He offered me everything he had left, a genuine, heartfelt apology, a promise to change, to be a better man. He even pathetically offered me a life together. "We can start over, Soph," he pleaded, his voice hoarse. "Just you and me. Away from all this." For a fleeting second, a ghost of a memory surfaced. The Ethan I had loved in my first life, the charming, ambitious man who had for a brief time made me happy. Before the greed, before the betrayal. The cold metal of my car keys dug into my palm, a sharp reminder of the pain he had caused, the life he had cost me. "No, Ethan," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "We can't." I got into my car, the engine purring to life, a sound of finality. I didn't look back as I drove away, leaving him standing there, a diminished figure in my rearview mirror, slowly fading into the rain-streaked landscape of my past. A few days later, Gabriel presented me with the last set of papers, documents formally dissolving any remaining legal or financial ties to the Miller family. The crisp sound of the pages turning marked the end of a chapter. A heavy weight I hadn't even fully realized I was carrying lifted from my shoulders as I signed my name with the engraved pen he'd gifted me when we first officially partnered. He watched me, his gray eyes soft. "So," he said, his quiet question hanging in the air between us. "What's next for you, Sophia Chen?" I looked up at him, a slow smile spreading across my face. For the first time in a very, very long time, the future felt like an open road, full of possibilities. "I'm not sure, Gabriel," I admitted. "But for the first time, I feel like I'm the one holding the map." 1 year later, I stand on the balcony of my villa in Santorini, the Aegean Sea stretching out before me, a breathtaking canvas of blues and golds. The salty breeze tangles my hair as I sip my morning coffee, a tablet resting on the table beside me, displaying the quarterly reports from the Madame Wu Foundation for Women's Financial Education. My grandmother's legacy, now mine to shape, to grow. News alerts on my phone show Ethan, working a mid-level job at a smaller firm. Humbled, recovering. I feel a flicker of something, not pity, not satisfaction, just a mild, detached curiosity. He's a ghost from a past life, a story I've already finished reading. Footsteps behind me. Gabriel. His hand, warm and reassuring, settles on the small of my back. Our wedding bands, simple gold bands, catch the morning light. We married 6 months ago, a quiet ceremony on a secluded beach witnessed only by a handful of close friends and the endless expanse of the ocean. A marriage built not on lies and manipulation, but on mutual respect, shared ambition, and a quiet, steady love that had grown unexpectedly from the ashes of my revenge. The distant chime of church bells drifts across the water, a peaceful, melodic sound. My grandmother's journal lies on the table, its leather binding worn smooth with age. I trace the Chinese characters of our family motto, words I finally truly understand. Patience before power. Wisdom before vengeance. Gabriel mentions casually that Vanessa Miller has applied for a junior analyst position at our new Hong Kong office. I smile. Second chances. They come in many forms. Sometimes, even for those who least deserve them. It will be up to the Hong Kong hiring manager to decide her fate. A deep sense of satisfaction washes over me as I check the latest progress reports from the foundation. Thousands of women across the globe, now financially independent, their lives transformed by the education programs we've established. The spicy, fragrant scent of Mediterranean herbs from the garden below drifts up, mingling with the salty air. My assistant forwards an email, Eleanor Miller, a polite, almost humble request to join the foundation's advisory board. I consider it for a moment, then forward the email to my team with a single word. Consider. Perhaps even Eleanor can learn something new. Evening falls, painting the sky in hues of fiery orange and soft lavender. Stars, like scattered diamonds, begin to prick the darkening canvas. The distant sound of music from the village below mingles with the gentle lapping of waves against the shore. Gabriel takes my hand, his touch a familiar comfort. "Do you regret any of it, Sophia?" he asks, his voice soft. I lean my head against his shoulder, breathing in the cool night air. I consider his question, tracing the lines on his palm with my fingertip. "Not the outcome," I answer truthfully, my voice barely a whisper. just that it was necessary. The first light of dawn begins to paint the white walls of our villa in shades of gold and rose. A new day, a new life, a life I've meticulously crafted, not from the bitter ashes of vengeance, but from the hard-won wisdom of experience. The taste of possibility is sweet on my tongue as I close my eyes, feeling the warmth of the rising sun on my face. My phone pings, a notification of a new investment opportunity. For once, I let it wait. Some moments I've learned deserve my full, undivided attention. This is one of them. I am, finally, at peace.